How come you're so tiny?
I don't know.
How are you so tiny? What happened? Why am I so much taller now? Why do you have a... What is that around your waist?
It's a pelican rubber ring.
Oh my gosh, can I see it?
Don't take it.
I can have it?
That is
Oh.
my most prized possession.
Oh.
How could you? How could you? Oh my gosh, that's so cute! Here, you can have it back. I have bad taking
Thank
it.
you. I need it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're gonna need that shiz.
Yeah, I'm gonna need it for getting clay.
What you need clay for?
My build.
Can I see your build?
Depends.
On what?
If you see the trapdoors,
The what?
it's literally all underground right now.
Hold on, let me see. That was terrifying. A bird fang.
A bird thing. That's me.
Trapdoors.
I need to find some oak.
Yeah, boop, boop.
Yeah, it's literally all gonna be underground. Yes. I'm going into my mole era.
Your mole era is insane.
I think I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm just
You gonna build a treehouse?
go into the sky. Yeah.
Let's build a treehouse together.
A bird that lives underground, and the rabbits
That
that
lives in
live
the sky.
overground.
Truly living up to our natures.
Yeah.
Even though, wait, hold on. We're not like rabbits anymore, right? Well, like, you're fully human now?
But not like
My wing,
Yeah,
like,
like,
literally the reason I have
technically, yeah.
wings is because they are literally like the strap-on pixie wings.
Wait, you mean those aren't
That
real
is the
anymore?
in-canon reason.
Wait, no, wait, those aren't real anymore?
Hmm?
Those aren't real? They let you fly?
no.
That's so
I
sad.
don't actually fly, I can't.
What? They took your flight away? What?
Yeah.
Oh. Why would they do this to us?
They clipped my wings.
They clipped your wings.
No, but yeah, they're literally just like strap-on, like backpack wings. It's how Ari's grieving.
Too late.
Too late. I don't know what that means.
Me neither, dude.
It's like to rent, but like city verbiage.
I thought that was to lease.
Yeah, lease is city.
It's the same thing. Probably.
Probably.
Quartz. Family. Home. So, are we
Toilet.
building like? We're building in the sky, alright?
Yeah, we're gonna build like I don't know,
I kind of want to build a
a
treehouse.
treehouse or something.
Yeah, treehouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sealing this tree,
For
by the way.
lower
We're planting it
reasons.
though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, take it.
I've got some gay tree.
You got a gay tree?
Gay
No
tree?
way. Show me the gay tree.
It's the gay tree. Show me the gay
Hold on, it's in my backpack. Okay. Calm
Okay,
down.
okay. That's terrifying.
I'm not a baby.
Ash baby.
Smoker baby.
It's the eucalyptus
Oh.
tree.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
those are over by Sunset Cove.
I literally cannot
Cedar.
break. How do I chop this tree down?
Not me introducing an invasive species.
Do it 3 more times.
3 more times?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll
3
chop
more
down
times.
all of it automatically.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Do you not have
I gotta
lava?
keep going. There we go. Whoa!
Apple.
That's so cool. We have technology.